Alright, what is up guys, it is Storm back here with another video, and in this one I am bringing you part 33 to Mightless, a My Hero Academia story by the mysterious Banana. Now, if you want to check this story out for yourself, the link to it will be down in the description below. But before that, if you like the content you're seeing, be sure to subscribe, like, and comment. I mean, they're all free, so why not? If you want some dope channel merch, the links will be down in the description below, and if you want to see more of me, be sure to go check out my other channels, go follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, which will all be linked down below. But, without further ado, why don't we just dive right on in. One day after the horrors unfolded at the training camp, and the media was already all over the case, the hero business, blamed for their lack of responsibility, were getting chewed out on every possible channel there was on TV, even ones who didn't cover hero news like the Nature Channel, while the outside of Yuuei was swarmed by the press, almost like a cliche zombie movie. The staff of the school were gathered at the top floor, discussing the current situation. "My dear pro-heroes," the rodent known as Nezu, principal of Yuuei, greeted. "I have called you all here because the reputation and pride of not only Yuuei, but the hero business in general is in dire condition. In the past months, we suffered 2 major attacks, both resulting in losses. And now, not only was it revealed that this entire time, there was a spy among our students, but we have lost both a student and 2 pro-heroes. We underestimated the League of Villains," President Mike said. "It seems as though they have already begun their attack on our society of heroes. There was a spy among us, remember? No matter how seriously we took the situation, there was no possible way we could have prevented this," Midnight responded. "I hate to say it, but we've been played. This entire time, the villains were in control of this current endeavor, while we were made to believe we were successfully suppressing these threats to society." All Might, in his deflated form, sat at the very corner during this meeting, muttering to himself. However, Mike was able to hear him. "All Might, is there something you would like to say? You've been quite down lately," asked Nezu. No response. "All Might," the mouse called him with a firm tone. The blonde skeleton snapped out of his trance. Sorry, I'm just..." The pro-hero jerked upwards while replying in a startled tone. "I'm just trying to process all of this." Hearing this, Mike patted him on the shoulder, trying to comfort him. "We understand, Yagi. It's not easy, knowing one of your students turned out to be a villain. We get that you're in pain, but we can't despair right now. Or else, they win," President Mike said in a comforting tone. "President Mike's right," as you added. "Right now, 2 of our best heroes have been taken hostage. All of our information are in the villain's possession, and we don't have a single lead on them." "Actually, we do," Midnight cut in. "We caught 5 members of their league, and one of them is in fact willing to give all the information away he knows about the league." "You mean Tomura Shigaraki?" asked All Might. "Yes, indeed. Although one odd thing is that upon further inspection, it seemed as though the man lost his quirk," replied Nezu. Hearing this, All Might shot up from his seat. "Wait, what do you mean he lost his quirk?" asked the hero. "It means what it meant. It was though all of a sudden his quirk suddenly vanished," Nezu replied. "Which was odd. Izuku had restrained the man earlier, but the door was busted down. There was also several items that were missing, disintegrated, in fact," Midnight added. "One of the possibilities would be that someone had stolen his quirk." With that said, All Might slammed his palm on the desk. "It's all for one. It has to be. He must have brainwashed poor young Midoriya into committing such atrocities," All Might yelled out in anger. A pinning silence followed All Might's outburst, one that was only broken by the sound of his ringing cell phone. Excusing himself, he left the room, his hands forming a fist, squeezing very hard. "What kind of symbol of peace can't even save his own student?" the hero thought. Some hero I turned out to be. Picking up his phone, he immediately answered, knowing who it was. "Sorry, what's up, Inspector Tsukauchi? We've interrogated the villain known as Tomura Shigaraki. He has already given all the information he knows. In fact, thanks to him, we know where the League of Villains hideout is," answered the inspector. Hearing this, All Might went silent. "We are already assembling the pro-heroes for a search and destroy mission. Now, all we are waiting for is you, All Might." "I'm in," the hero immediately replied, turning into his muscular form. "It's time we fight back and put down All for One, once and for all." "And what about the boy?" "We haven't revealed his true identity to the public. Right now, young Midoriya is classified as missing to the public. So, once we get him back and undo whatever brainwashing he went through, we can leave all this behind," replied All Might. Well, you better do it quick. His mother is worried sick. Only one day in and she already stopped by the police station 7 times, hoping desperately for an update on the situation. Looking more and more despaired every time, replied the inspector. Consider it done, All Might said before hanging up and heading for the exits. Although one thing still confuses me. Izuku Midoriya. Why do I have a feeling I've met him somewhere? Every time I see him, I can't help but feel guilty. Just, who are you, Midoriya? 2 days in, and finally Todoroki woke up. Apparently, he had been out for the past 2 days, racked with pain and a high fever. His body was wrapped in bandages, and his 2 arms were in casts. Apparently, in his battle against Muscular, the combined abuse of One For All and his Fire and Ice quirk resulted in severe fracture under a layer of 3rd-degree burns. If it weren't for his father pouring almost half of his agency's worth of money into his medical bills, his arms would have been amputated. According to Recovery Girl, the fact that they were in moving condition was a miracle. Turning to his right, there was a huge box of chocolates from his father. From what he heard, and never actually came to deliver the box himself, but had to leave early because the press was following him. Seeing this, the boy smiled, knowing that his father can and was changing, trying to atone for his past crimes and actually trying to be a father. Something that he still couldn't get over, however, was the revelation that Izuku was a villain. While he didn't express it much, he was just as shocked as everyone else. Then there was Aizawa and Katsuki. Both his teacher and classmate were taken hostage, by Izuku no less. Staring at the ceiling, Izuku's malicious face, radiating with insanity that kept plaguing his mind. That kid standing over Katsuki's half-dead corpse. It couldn't have been Izuku. It couldn't have. The Izuku they knew was so pure, so innocent. Seeing him like that was gut-wrenching, terrifying. It was. "Hey Todoroki, looks like you're awake," a voice called out, snapping him out of his trance. Turning around, the bedridden student saw his friends and classmates flooding into the room. "Did you see what's on TV? The whole media's all over the school," Kaminari continued. "It's even worse than back in spring," added Sato. Looking at the group, it seemed a lot smaller than he remembered. "Is everyone here?" asked Todoroki. "No, Tokoyami is still unconscious ever since he was knocked out by the poison gas. Mineta and Koda were badly injured in their fights. They're actually recovering in the room next door. Ojiro took a nasty blow to the shoulder, so he's out cold, but beside all that," Ida explained. "All 14 of us are here," Ochako finished. Hearing that made Todoroki's heart wrench, only this time, it was visible. "Still over the whole Izuku situation, huh?" Sarah said. "I don't blame you. It hasn't been easy for me to take, nor has it for anyone. Then there's also Aizawa, Snipe, and Katsuki. They're all missing," Ochako added. Looking back up at the ceiling, the Ice Boy started to monologue. "I was confronted by All Might after the sports festival. He wanted to apologize to me for not noticing someone who was in such pain for so long," he started, while keeping his second quirk a secret. "When I looked into his eyes, I read his emotions. He was heartbroken, guilty, knowing he couldn't do anything, despite so many obvious clues alluding to my suffering. Clutching his bedsheets, tears slowly leaked out of the teen's eyes. That's when I realized hiding my pain will only push others away. I'll only suffer further without the help of anyone else. Things could have only gotten worse for me. I don't even know what I would have done had Izuku not made my father confess. I was scared, trembling at the idea of what would happen should I snap. Would I have killed someone? How long would I have lasted before I became broken?" He continued, not crying for real. Seeing Izuku like that only made me realize he was broken. There came a point in his life where he was suffering just as much as me. Only he didn't have anyone to save him. To think someone like Izuku was suffering so deeply, despite his smile gleaming with joy. I understand, Kirishima cut in. "So let's save them now." "Huh?" The rest of the group reacted. "You see, I came here yesterday too, and I ran into All Might talking to Yaoyorozu, Mineta, and Koda. Apparently, Mineta had stuck a tracking device Momo had made onto the back of the Nomu. All she needs to do now is make another tracking device for us, and we can interfere with work meant for the pros?" Ida cut in, clearly upset. "We shouldn't interfere with what the professionals are doing. You know that." "Of course I know that, but I still couldn't do anything," Kirishima replied in an equally upset tone. "If Midoriya turned on us, there must be a reason why. We know him. We do better than almost anyone. I can't just sit around while our friend is currently suffering. It's no longer only my duty as a hero that's calling me, but my duty as a man as well. Kirishima, calm down. This is a hospital, Suyu interrupted. Besides, Ida's right. I know that he's right, but he's still our friend. I know that no matter how many layers of fate and lies he puts up in front of us, Midoriya still legitimately cares for us deep down, Kirishima replied, turning to Todoroki. Shoto, I know you're upset, but there's still a chance. We can still save them. At the villain hideout. Cheers! The entirety of the League of Villains, including Izuku, cheered in unison, clinking their respective beer mugs together while celebrating another successful attack. The bar was looking relatively empty, aside from the chairs and sofas bolted to the ground. Most of the stuff in the bar was moved to the League's new hideout. So, in other words, the celebration was also a goodbye party for their current hideout, as it was inevitably going to get punched down by All Might and the other pro heroes. But on the other hand, the emptiness was being filled by the air of festivity and joy. You're kidding me. You three actually fought a pro hero? Spinner asked Sachi, both semi-drunk. Yeah, it was awesome. He was like, take this. And I was like, oh yeah, how about this? And Reno was all like, wow, Sachi, you're so cool and sexy. I just want to strip you down and plow you right here and now, Sachi replied. That never happened, you asshole. Rena yelled, her face bright red, not realizing she was talking to a lamp. Yo, Rena, I think you've had one too many, Sachi laughed, seeing her stumbling around, looking the wrong way. Shut up. I have full control over everything I do. I have full control like this, she replied before turning around kissing Toga, who was too hammered to care and rolled with it. The two villains watched in shock before turning to Izuku. Are you just, you just gonna let her do that? Asked Spinner. Yeah, sure, why not? She'll have to pay the price later in my new bedroom at the new hideout. I heard it was soundproof. Izuku grinned with a hint of darkness and lust on his face. And that's how those fucks got away, Dobby finished, telling a story to the hounds. Wow, looks like you need some more training, Rabbit laughed, punching Dobby in the shoulder, as well as some more meat on those bones. Still, we can't be too happy. After all, we did lose a few men, Tracker said in a cold tone. Aw man, Tracker, why do you gotta be such a party pooper? Lighten up, man. Have a drink. Rabbit laughed back, holding his pint up to his face. Meanwhile, at another table, a group composed of Magni, Twice, and Yang were laughing at Mr. Compress, who they all knew was the funniest when he was drunk, as he danced while making singing drunkenly like a French leprechaun, leaping from table to table. So, you said you actually beat a pro hero, asked Twice. Yeah, it was awesome. He was all like, take this, brrrr, and I was like, oh yeah, how about this? And Sachi and Ira and I were all like, wow, Yang, you're so cool and sexy. Can I get your autograph and worship you like a goddess? She replied. Meanwhile, it seemed as though Irina had gotten more vicious, as she was now pinned by Toga, still too drunk to care against the counter. Both not wearing very many clothes and just full on making out. Seeing how the party was eventually going to get out of hand, he turned to Kurogiri, who seemed to be moving very strangely and giggling. Hey, Kurogiri, can you warp me to the warehouse? I have an old friend to visit, he asked. Also, give us a heads up on the pro heroes. We don't want to be in the middle of partying when they attack. Turning around, however, the misty bartender surprised Izuku. The yellow streaks that were his eyes were swirling uncontrollably, and he himself seemed to be giggling uncontrollably like a schoolgirl. Izuku, you got to see this, the bartender said while giggling. Are you drunk? Is that even physically possible for someone like you? Asked Izuku, before a portal appeared in front of him as the bartender shoved his head through it. Through the portal, they were in the middle of the streets, near the corner of a mildly crowded market district far from the hideout. The villain boss could hear giggles as it turned out that the portal was peeking through Kurogiri's eyes. Now watch this, Kurogiri said in a high-pitched tone. Suddenly, a portal appeared in the sky. Yellow liquid rained down out of it, raining down on the civilian as they ran circles and panicked. Are you pissing on the civilians? Izuku asked. Kurogiri? Suddenly, he realized that the portal was shrinking down. In a hint of panic, he pulled his head back as the thing closed completely. A tad bit pissed off, he punched the drunken bartender across his misty face. "You could have decapitated me, you asshole," he yelled, as the bartender flew into Irin and Toga, knocking them onto Sachi, who collapsed due to their weight and fell on the ground. "Well, 3-way it is then," the man said nonchalantly. Sorry, the bartender laughed, opening a portal. "Here you go, son." "What was that?" Izuku asked. "Nothing." Kurogiri laughed back, still slouched over. Note to self, never ever let Kurogiri get drunk, Izuku said to himself, walking through the portal and hoping he didn't accidentally teleport him in front of All Might. Luckily he didn't, it was the right place. For whatever reason, however, All For One elected to stay put at this place instead of moving into their new hideout. Odd, considering this was where all the no moves, including the one used in the training camp, were being stored. Maybe now that he didn't have All For One anymore, he identified himself as a no move himself. He didn't give it much thought. Instead, he was rather excited. After all this time, he was finally gonna get what he wanted. Revenge. Katsuki woke up in a dark room. His vision was still blurry, so he tried to rub his eyes, but he couldn't seem to move his arms. His eyes finally adjusting to the room, he saw that he was completely tied up, his arms in heavy metal cuffs and chained to a metallic chair. While his head was left without any restraints, allowing him to talk, look around and see, it seemed to be the only part of his body that he could move. Everything else was tied up. Before he could even say a word, he heard the sound of a door opening. As a familiar voice walked in, he heard him hum a familiar tune, the third theme song to All Might's Bizarre Adventures, Smash Proud, allowing him to recognize his voice, which made him quiver, as he kept trying to deny who he might be, as the figure walked out of the shadows, turning on a faint light, revealing his appearance. All that denial went out of the window. "Deku?" he asked weakly. "Hello, Kachan," his former childhood friend said with a cold, forced smile. Immediately, the teen thrashed back and forth, trying to free himself from his bonds. He even tried to use his quirk, but to no effect. "It's useless. Those restraints were stolen from the Ministry of Safety when we attacked. They're meant to hold back rank S criminals. Your quirk is nullified when these restraints are put on you," Izuku said, sitting down backwards in a chair, using the back as an armrest. "Not that it matters, since even if you were in top shape, you'd still stand no chance against me." Not his eyes nor ears could believe. Not only was Deku the Deku that he knew, the only one that could hold his ground against him for 5 seconds without wetting himself, the one that cried at least 4 times a day, acting nothing like he once was, but he completely contrasted his previous personalities. This man, standing before him, it couldn't be Deku, it just couldn't. He was so cold, ruthless, without scrutiny. "What the fuck happened, Deku? Why are you siding with the villains? What happened to your fascination towards heroes, towards All Might, your dreams, your passion? Answer me!" Katsuki yelled until his throat burned. Hearing this, Izuku laughed. "Oh, what was that? Care, you actually give a fuck now. Where were these fucks you gave when you beat me up day after day in middle school? Where were these fucks you gave when you said I should just kill myself? Where were they when you kept kicking me down when I tried to do anything?" Izuku laughed hysterically before punching Katsuki across the face. "I had to put up with your shit for the past 11 years, Katsuki Bakugo. I was always trying to help you, trying to get on your good side, and you turned me down. The whole world turned me down. Even All Might turned me down. Well, I've had enough. There's only so much a man can take before crumbling, Katsuki." Hearing this, Katsuki felt a pulsating pain pounding in his chest, one he was never familiar with until now. Guilt. "Frankly, I don't know what you were expecting when you apologized to me back at that damn training camp. For your information, that apology legitimately pissed me off. If you thought I would have forgiven you back there, then you thought wrong," Izuku continued, still with a tad bit of anger mixed in his calm demeanor. The student bit his lips, trying his best not to cry. It wasn't just because he was in front of Izuku, but because, for reasons beyond him, he was scared. Yes, scared. Scared of what might happen should he show weakness in this situation. Scared of what Izuku could think up to use that against him. No, you're not Deku, Katsuki muttered. The Deku I knew would have forgiven me back then. He would have asked me what I would do from that day forward, in which I would have replied to fix my past mistakes. The Deku I know would have not given up on his dreams. Please, no, Izuku, this isn't you and you know it. Tell me there's still something left of you in there. Deku is dead, Kachan. So is Izuku. There's only Mightless, Izuku replied. He died the day you told me I couldn't be a hero. The day the world told me I couldn't be a hero. The day All Might told me I couldn't be a hero. All Might would have never done such a thing, Katsuki yelled back. Well, if that were the case, maybe I wouldn't have gone into Yuuei nor become a villain. I would have just been another average Joe with broken dreams. One that will one day appear in the news for blowing his brains out with a stolen revolver in the back alley motels of the Hosu back alley. And you'll once more be to blame. Only I guess you'd never have realized how much of an asshole you were if that were the case, replied the villain. But that doesn't matter. All Might will pay. No, they'll all pay. All Might will win, Deku, and when he does, I will personally break free and beat some sense back into you, Katsuki yelled back, regaining some of his old rage. Letting out a murderous grin, one which sent shivers down Katsuki's spine, Izuku pulled out a remote and clicked a button. Suddenly, a screen list showed up, showing the news of how the heroes were planning to raid the villain's hideout tonight. You see, they're coming for you, Deku, so you better snap out of it before they beat you up like any other. It was said that the villain's hideout was leaked by the former member Tomura Shigaraki, the newscaster added. Perfect, Izuku smiled. Huh? What do you mean? Katsuki asked, confused. Did you really think I kidnapped you for no reason? We moved hideouts a few days ago. The hideout Tomura Shigaraki's talking about is rigged with explosives. And we have an army of Nomu waiting to ambush and slaughter them. Izuku laughed sadistically. Once those heroes attack our old base, the trap will be sprung. And it'll be a bloodbath, recorded live on TV. No, Katsuki uttered in disbelief. No, you're lying. And you'll be there, watching the bloodbath unfold, knowing that you are the reason behind the deaths of all the heroes there. That all those heroes only came to save you. Izuku laughed maniacally while bringing out a timer, ticking down to when the heroes planned to attack. No. Deku, please, don't do this. Call off your Nomus. Disarm the damn explosives. Don't you dare do it, Katsuki yelled, as he witnessed Izuku's face, shifting from calm and composed to downright psychotic, wild, and insane. Yes, cry. Let me hear those cries, Izuku laughed, once more letting out his sadistic dark side. Deku! Katsuki yelled repeatedly in desperation. As the two yelled at each other for nearly an hour, it seemed as though Izuku had finally gotten all of his pent-up rage out of his system. Katsuki, too, seemed to be drained, his throat burning hot and his mouth dry like a desert, as the boy slumped over, exhausted. Deku, Katsuki let out, still clinging onto his consciousness. Well, would you look at the time? I better be heading off. I have a girl that I need to punish, Izuku replied before leaving the room. Oh, and by the way, when the heroes start getting slaughtered, make sure to give out your most painful cry so that I can record it and make it my ringtone. As the door slammed shut, leaving the TV as the only source of light in the room, drops of tears fell down Katsuki's face. Deku, I'm sorry. Later that night, outside the hospital, Todoroki stood outside, waiting for everyone else to show up. He still remembered very clearly what happened earlier that day, what everyone said. Backing up to a few hours ago, Ida was still arguing with the rest of the students who chose to go and save Izuku and Katsuki. So you're just gonna follow Momo's tracker and go save them by yourselves? Ida asked in a pissed off tone. That's the plan, yeah, Hiroshima replied so casually that it made Ida jerk his head back in anger. You, calm down, Ida, Shoji cut in. I understand Kirishima's pain over being unable to protect Katsuki, and Todoroki's frustration in failing to understand Midoriya. I regret it all too, but we can't let our emotions get the better of us. I mean, what would Aizawa have said in this situation? Aizawa-sensei is gone, Kirishima yelled, clearly getting more and more upset, as he gasped and panted rapidly. Trying not to cry, he's gone. We don't make the best decisions when we're in shock. If we need to save Katsuki and Izuku, we need to think this over calmly, Tsuyu said. Because if you think about it, No matter how you slice it, in whatever way you try to justify it, we're still breaking the law. If we disobey another order, we'll be no better than villains." Hearing this silenced the whole class, now all thinking twice about this plan. The silence was finally broken when the doctor came in, asking everyone to leave so that they could have Todoroki's examination. Before Kirishima left, however, he walked up to Todoroki. "Yaoyorozu and I are making our move tonight. Feel free to join us," Kirishima said. "Oh, and one more thing. I know this may not sit well with you, but if Midoriya really is siding with the villains to his accord, then a fight will be inevitable. I don't know how you're gonna feel fighting one of our bestest friends, but just to give you a heads up, it will happen." Those last words swirled in Todoroki's head. He never felt anything for the villains he defeated back in the USJ, but this villain was different. He was a close friend. Could he really bring himself to hurt him? As much of a reputation he had for being cold, ready to pull the trigger on anyone, even his own friends if he had to. Training with All Might for these past few weeks really thawed out his cold, frozen heart, and this is one of its bigger drawbacks. His hazy thoughts were interrupted, however, when he heard Kirishima and Momo call him. Turning around, they all came in, but to his biggest surprise, so did Ida. "Ida, you're here too?" asked Todoroki. "Momo and I had a discussion about the plan. It seemed as though I misinterpreted the details," Ida explained, his voice racked with shame. He initially thought they were going to pull a Rambo and run in guns blazing, but really, they were doing this Metal Gear Solid style and just sneaking in, Kirishima explained. "Well, that's good to know that Ida's joining us, but why does he look so down?" Todoroki asked, seeing Ida. He ended up losing control when Momo told him she came up with the idea in the first place, and he hit me hard," Momo finished, still rubbing her lightly bruised cheek. "I committed the worst possible crime as class president. I shall commit self-flagellation to cleanse my sins," Ida cried, practically drowning in shame. "I told you it's fine, I forgave you hours ago," Momo replied, slapping him in the back of the head. "Drama queen. If all that's settled, then let's go," Kirishima yelled out. "Right," Todoroki suddenly replied. "We have classmates to save." Suddenly, a voice was heard, as a familiar figure ran towards the four. "Wait, hold up." A woman's voice was heard. While the students didn't recognize the voice, they all recognized who it was. With that appearance, there was no mistake. "You must be Izuku's mother," Todoroki said. "Yes, I'm Ingo Midoriya," the mother replied worriedly. As the four looked at her, they couldn't help but feel sorry. Her slim figure looked like it was about to collapse from stress. She looked like she hadn't gotten any sleep in days, desperate to see her lost son once more. "I stopped by everywhere that might have a small connection to my poor Izuku." "Are you his classmates?" asked Inko. "Yes, very close friends too," Ida answered, as he was about to apologize to her about her son being a villain when she suddenly spoke up. "I was called by Yuuei a few days ago. They told me my son was kidnapped. He'll be okay, right? I kept asking to the heroes, to the cops, anyone I could trust," she said in desperation, making Ida, as well as the other students, bite their tongues, now knowing that she didn't know the truth. "Yes, Inko, he'll be fine," Todoroki said in a reassuring tone, before the four walked past her, with determination written on their faces. "We'll make sure of it." There was a silence. Then Ino spoke up. "You're going to Kamino to save him, right?" asked Inko. The four froze, bewildered as to how she found out. Yeah, Kirishima answered nervously. "Then let me come too," Inko said, turning around, with a face that was rejuvenated and as determined as the four combined. "What?" Ida and Momo uttered in unison. "It would be quite suspicious for 4 teens to just wander to wherever the villains who kidnapped my poor baby is. I'll come too," Inko repeated. The four shook their heads. No, we can't let you. It's our duty as heroes to keep civilians out of danger," Momo said. "Well, it's my job as a mother to help my son even in the most dire of times. Besides, and don't tell anyone, as this is a secret I kept from even Izuku," Inko replied, pulling out a colored card with the word "Hero License," printed in bright colors on the front. "I was a pro hero too, so I'm familiar with danger." The group stood there shocked. Momo grabbed the card, analyzing it very closely. It was legit. "You were a former pro hero?" asked Todoroki. "The former number 3 pro hero, actually," Inko replied. The four thought about it for a moment, but then they realized. If she found out the truth, she would be heartbroken. She may be familiar with danger, but this kind of danger is beyond her. So even though she made a valid argument, the group agreed to leave her out. It was for her own good. "Sorry, Inko. We simply can't let someone like you do such a dangerous stunt. Plus, even if you were a former pro hero, you're still a civilian by official standards. If we were caught dragging a civilian into this mess, we would just be in even more trouble. I'm sorry, Todoroki told her. The woman thought about it for a moment, trying to process those words. It's alright, I understand, Inko said, as the four walked off. Good luck then. As Inko's figure slowly disappeared in the distance, the four all thought the same thing. We have to bring Midoriya back to the light. For his mother's sake. At the main police building, the same one that was recently raided by the League of Villains, the pro heroes grouped up. As Detective Tsukauchi entered the room, "Gentlemen, it is time we discuss our plan of attack," the detective begun, looking at the room of heroes. "First, we need to discuss what kind of firepower we're looking at here," started Best Jeanist. Hearing this, the inspector started to explain. The participating heroes were by the dozens, including most of the top 10, including Gang Orca, Edgeshot, Best Jeanist, Endeavor, and All Might. Besides these top dogs, there were also many other powerful pro heroes, including the entire Tiger Mount Lady Kamui Wood Gran Torino, who's dragged straight out of retirement, and even a few Yuuei staff like Midnight and 13. Even some new debuting heroes who were willing to participate, including Vaseline, a debuting graduate from Shiketsu High School who possessed a lubricating quirk, Bookworm, a former sidekick of Ingenium who pursued his own hero career after Ingenium was forced into retirement by Stain, and who possessed a quirk that could make him react and think super quickly as if everything was in slow-mo. And finally, Banana Mysterio, a former book author with the quirk Peel, which could allow him to peel off up to 1 centimeter layer off any surface. Aside from the heroes, both the police force and special force was said to be joining the fight. Hearing this, All Might stood up, giving his signature smile. "It's time. Let's end this war once and for all," he said. Meanwhile, Kurogiri, recovering from the partying, had evacuated the last member. While that was going on, Izuku stood on the roof of the building, looking down at the beautiful lit city, lifting his cup of martini into the air. He dumped it down the roof. "Here is to the brave heroes who will come tonight. We shall meet at last properly, All Might, and this battle will be one for the history books." 愛してる